Okay, it's a vegetable soup with egg muffins. And the first thing that the Fareshare and Tesco wanted to show us is that you can make your own bun cases. So that's what's going on here. I'm cutting some squares from baking paper, which I'm going to line a bun tray with. And that's what the muffins are going to go in. Now the muffins are just basically bread and some cheese and some egg, so they don't grow or anything like that. But in the muffins, I'm going to use peppers and mushrooms. Now, if your kids are anything like my kids, they just won't eat anything that's green. The recipe does try and get you to put something green in, and if your kids will eat that, that's fantastic, but mine won't. So here we go, chopping up a pepper, and I'm just going to chop it up into nice little squares, so that's dicing it up. Not too particular about the size, I just want them fairly small. And the mushrooms, I'm going to just chop them in half. I've washed them first, and then they sort of sit flat on the board once they're chopped in half, and then they're easier to just slice up. I've sped the video up a little bit, I'm not going that fast, so don't worry about that. Just keep your fingers out of the way from the bottom of the blade and take it steady. That's the main thing. So I've got to pop a frying pan on, start it off high and then bring it down a little bit once it's going. So it's a frying pan with just a dab of oil in, and then the peppers and the mushrooms are going to go in there, and they're going to cook for about 6 or 7 minutes, and just to cook them off. And once that's done, we're going to beat a couple of eggs, and add a little bit of milk, give it a whisk up, and then I'm going to get some bread, take the crusts off, and basically slice it up into some little cubes. Now the recipe says stale bread, but I mean, I don't have any stale bread at home. You might not either. If you don't, just get some bread, just leave it on the counter for an hour. It'll be stale by the time it's done, unless it's one of these sort of breads that's got all the preservatives and stuff in, and it's a good way of finding out actually. Leave it on the counter for an hour. If it's still nice and soft, there's something amiss there, it's got some preservatives in. So as you can see now on the screen, that's looking fairly cooked, and it's just about ready to come off. And I'll sit that in a bowl for maybe 5 minutes just to cool down a little bit, because it's going to mix in with stuff. So this is what we were on about earlier, slicing the bread up into cubes. I get rid of the crusts because my kids don't like anything that's dark brown. If you want to leave the crusts on, that's fine, I'll add a bit of texture. I feed them to the birds. It's a great thing to do with them. So they just get stored in a bowl. Here we go, breaking an egg. I'm going to break a second egg in there, add some milk, and give it a dabble with a whisk. Again, that's sped up slightly. I can go pretty fast, but not quite that fast. So here we go, adding the cooled down mixture of peppers and mushrooms, and like I say, you might have some greens in there too. I'm just going to mix it together. The bread will soak up some of the juice that's on the mushrooms and peppers. And I'm adding cheese. You can grate your own cheese. This has come already grated. That's just how this has come, and it's cheddar that I've used. And now I'm adding the egg. I'm going to mix it all together. Now once it's mixed, I'm going to leave it for a few minutes before putting it into the muffin trays. The reason is I just want the egg and the juices from the peppers and mushrooms to soak into that bread. And here is a muffin tray. It's a silicone one. You might have a metal one. Both work just the same. They're absolutely fine. I'm using a rolling pin just to push in the bits of paper, and then just scoop in a little bit of the mixture. And remember, it'll stay the same size because it's not like it's made with self-raising flour. It just stays as it won't grow. You do that with all 6. I've taken a few out just to save a bit of time. Pop them on a tray, and when you're ready, pop them in the oven. Next is making a soup. So we're going to peel some vegetables off. Here I'm peeling a potato. We've been through this before though, so I won't go into too much detail. And this is a sweet potato. I'm just saving the peelings for composting. And it's up to you what veg you put in. Again, the recipe says celery. I'm not putting any celery in. The kids just will not tolerate celery at all, so there's no point. And normally I try to use nice big onions, but you know, these are just supermarket little onions. Use 2, maybe 3 instead of 1, because they're so small. Just chop them up. It don't matter about being too neat. This is just going to help form a base of the soup. Again, the recipe says garlic. I'm not putting garlic in this one, just because the kids, if they get a hint of it and it's not garlic bread, they just won't touch it at all. My kids are very fussy, and I do try my best with them, but I can't work miracles. So now I'm going to slice up the potato and the sweet potato into very small pieces, because I want them to cook fairly quickly in the soup. So on your screen there, there's sliced onions, potatoes, and then sweet potatoes. And here we are, nice big stock pot. This is on a high heat. I'm going to put some oil in, just get that nice and hot, and then I'm going to put in the onions. Now this is the point where you'd also put in the celery and the garlic after a few minutes if you were going to put that in. I'm just going to put the onions in. I'm just going to cook them just so they slightly brown a little bit, not much, just one edge brown, and then I'm going to put the root vegetables in, because they need longer to cook. They won't really cook that much until the water's added. Now for the rest of the veg, I just came across one of those packets of veg in the supermarket where you get a bit of cauliflower, a bit of broccoli and some carrots. I thought that was pretty good, nice and cheap, so in it goes. You've just seen me there putting a stock cube in, and there we go. That's 1 litre of water, I believe. And then it's just a case of letting that water basically simmer. So we want it sort of boiling, but only lightly boiling. It doesn't want to be bubbling like mad and frothing over the top. It just wants to be, you want to see it bubbling, but it doesn't want to be too bad. And then leave that a while, and then everything goes nice and soft. It's a soup, so what happens with soup is I like them nice and blended, so I use a stick blender. And I'd really advise you to use a stick blender too. You could use a food processor if you want, or you could even eat it just nice and sort of rustic and lumpy like that. But my advice, put a stick blender through it and make it nice and smooth. You might need to add a little bit more water to it if the texture's too thick. Hopefully it won't be. And then taste it at the end. When I made this, it didn't taste that good, but salt and pepper in there, it tasted fine. Those are the muffins when they're done. They're a bit sort of strange what they are, you know what I mean, but they were nice enough to eat. And the soup, like I say, once it had some salt and pepper in, it was nice, and it probably needs more salt and pepper than what you think. Good luck.